It's Steve Gruber Show. Scott Bertrand sitting in for Steve on this Monday morning all across this great country. Thanks so much for joining us. Shutdown continues in Washington, D.C. We'll see what news the week brings. Sam Rouse is with us to discuss. Sam is a recent graduate at the University of Miami. David Boaz, a resident writing fellow with Young Voices, had a piece over at the American Spectator. COVID's over, so end the Obamacare subsidies entirely. Sam, thanks so much for joining us here on the Steve Gruber Show.
Good morning, and thank you for having me.
Appreciate it. Let's begin by outlining what this shutdown is about, at least for Democrats. They are asking not for a clean bill, but for a bill with some changes to it. What do they want?
Yeah, the Democrats are pushing really hard right now for the Republicans to do maybe the strangest thing they could possibly do, which is to continue to fund for a number of handouts that were given during the COVID pandemic to health insurers under Obamacare, to pretty much subsidize them entirely on a corporate structure, as well as to continue to provide emergency healthcare benefits to illegal immigrants, which is just so out of touch with the Trump administration, so out of touch with where the American people are right now, and would cost us hundreds of billions of dollars that, frankly, nobody wants to spend. Nobody thinks is an appropriate use of money. We're already so far in debt. Um, Yet the Democrats are threatening to keep the government closed, and they already closed it simply over these healthcare concerns.
The subsidies, the COVID, I guess, bonus subsidies that went out during those years. This was a creation of the Biden administration. It wasn't part of the original legislation that passed. They were meant to sunset. They were also really generous. 400 times. I mean, you're talking about families that are making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year who were then eligible for these subsidies under the law as written.
Yeah, this was a one-time thing. It was meant to be very temporary at a time when there's so much uncertainty in our public health system, so much confusion. The economy was pretty much in standstill as businesses closed down, as people worked from home. And so, yeah, we were looking to try to, keep the country healthy and running. But at this point, it makes no sense for us to be subsidizing the healthcare of people that are very well off, very much can afford healthcare, easily will be able to get private insurance and pay for it themselves. But the Democrats don't want to hear that because they've been on a long path over the past decade and a half to trying to march us to a form of universalized healthcare through continuing to expand these programs, continuing to subsidize health insurance, pretty much taking over the health insurance industry um, from the public sector. And that's really not what we're looking for. I think that the Trump administration is very supportive of the free market, very supportive of people seeking out the benefits that they need and helping those that are in need when they absolutely need them. And that's what we did in the one big beautiful bill with making Medicaid more efficient yet again.
Sam Rouse with us. You can read his piece at the American Spectator. COVID is over, so end the Obamacare subsidies entirely. I think it was Milton Friedman who said there's nothing so permanent as a temporary government program. And here we have temporary government extension, temporary government benefits during COVID. Why is it so difficult to simply say, you wrote the bill this way. You said these are supposed to sunset. Why change now?
Well, I think it's a classic example of when you do these corporate subsidies, which is even maybe worse
Hmm.
than trying to get government programs directly to the people to sunset, is then that creates the incentive for these very powerful industries, these very powerful corporations to go lobby Congress to continue to get these handouts from the American taxpayer. And so I'm sure there's very, very strong special interest advocating for this. And they have their grip over Congress in a lot of ways. And the Democrats really seem to be captured by corporate interest at this point. They are especially captured by the healthcare industry and by these insurance companies. Um, because they see this kind of dual mandate where they can prop up their businesses and they can run these quote unquote free market enterprises, but they're really backed up and guaranteed by the government. There's no potential for failure, that's for sure.
Is this not a tacit admission, Sam, that Obamacare is broken and Obamacare doesn't work? I suppose the admission is that every 2 years, every 4 years, Democrats are saying we have to fix healthcare when Obamacare was supposed to have done that more than a decade ago. But now they're saying, look, no one can even afford Obamacare unless we continue to shovel these subsidies onto healthcare companies.
Yeah, absolutely. And I saw somebody post some really great points that the Republicans need to take this another step. They can't just let this be, okay, we're not going to pass a resolution unless it ends these subsidies. No, it is time for us to revisit the Obamacare question. And I think while there might be some electoral concerns with that, I think the party is in a much stronger state right now, and
Mhm.
we can address it, and we can. And I think the American people are ready to acknowledge that this has not made their healthcare any more affordable. It certainly made it not any easier or simpler to get the care that you want, go see the doctor you want to see. It's so much paperwork and so complicated, and so many different people you're paying. And I think people are ready for a clean cut and get us back to ground zero, which I think would be things like health savings accounts, would be
Mhm.
private market insurance companies, and then a focus on actually the health of people, not the insurance coverage of people. And I think that's what we're seeing at HHS under this administration for sure.
Now, Sam, Republicans seem to be pretty well dug in into not agreeing to Democrat demands to end the shutdown. However, they have been saying, end the shutdown, then we'll discuss. And as you point out in your piece, at least two senators, Lisa Murkowski from Alaska, Mike Rounds of South Dakota, have suggested that an extension of those subsidies might be on the table. How confident are you that even post shutdown, Republicans can stand firm against extending these subsidies?
Well, I think that the Republican leadership and the majority of the caucus will not end a shutdown with the subsidies at all. And I think that those senators may be an outlier. I hope certainly that they're an outlier, because I would have extreme concerns that, yeah, if we continue this for even 1 or 2 more years, when it's really completely unnecessary, they'll find a way to continue and continue and continue. And that's what we've seen with so many different corporate subsidies that the US government has done before. Um, but I think that once we do open the government, and hopefully without these subsidies, that we will be taking a closer look at healthcare policy more broadly. Certainly, while the GOP still has majorities in both chambers under this administration in the coming year.
Sam Rouse is a recent grad at the University of Miami, David Boaz resident writing fellow with Young Voices, and you can read his piece at the American Spectator. COVID is over, so end the Obamacare subsidies entirely. Sam, thanks so much for joining us this morning here on The Steve Gruber Show.
Thank you so much for having me.
We appreciate it. That's Sam Rouse. We'll see what this week brings in relation to the shutdown. There was a CBS poll, something, I think CBS over the weekend, saying about a third of Americans blame Republicans, about a third of Americans blame Democrats, and about a third say you're both to blame. Clearly, it's the Democrats who are shutting down the government. I think Republicans sort of have this residue on them that they are simply the party that has shut down the government recently, so they must be the party shutting down the government again. So in that sense, messaging might need to be a little sharper to make sure the message is driven home. Scott Bertram sitting in for Steve. This is the Steve Gruber Show.